In this video, we'll be taking a look at the MixChecker plugin by Audified and how we can use it to readdress the balance in our mixdown so it will translate well across a number of different playback systems. We'll be using some A/Bing with some other tracks in the specific genre we're working in to cross-reference whether our mixdown is going to play back well on the simulation systems offered by MixChecker. So I've got my project I'm working on here, and in the studio the mix is sounding okay if you have the speakers turned up, the subs sounding nice, but cross-referencing across all these different playback systems is a bit of a headache if you have to bounce your mix down and then play it back off laptop speakers, or put it on your phone and then go and play it on your headphones or your earbuds. And MixChecker is designed to take that process out and just quickly cross-reference all these simulation systems, such as a classic studio monitor, classic cube monitor, on-ear headphones, we have earbuds as well, a tablet, laptop, a smartphone. And I thought it'd be a good idea to also use an A/B referencing plugin, so we can not only hear how our mix is going to sound on these playback systems, but also a well produced and well mixed production, how that sounds on these playback systems, and if ours is matching up and the levels are where they need to be. So in the studio, to me this is sounding okay, but let's try one of these simulations out, say for example the radio. Or the tablet, laptop speakers, and classic studio monitor. We also have this compensation section up here. If your speakers are of low quality, you have 5-inch studio monitors or 8-inch studio monitors, you can try one of these out for compensation. Further cross-referencing. Another handy feature of MixChecker is if we hit on the tool button here, we can show a volume panel. If you watch the level meter over here on my master output, as we switch from one simulation to another, there can be some differences in the volume, and if you want to avoid that, we can, for the smartphone simulation, we can take the volume up, so we're level compensating between simulations. So things are sounding okay in the studio. Now let's get our A/B referencing plugin up and hear some other productions in this style. How they sound and how they translate across these simulations. And something I'm noticing straight away is that the kick drum's not really coming through. It's not really punching through. It sounds fine in the studio where you've got lots of sub, but on some of these systems where no sub is represented, the kick is really getting lost. So in this instance, I might look at one of these simulations and see if I can knock the kick drum up a few dB. So we can actually hear the kick drum coming through a bit more now. And it doesn't sound unbalanced when we turn the simulation off. Also, something I noticed when we're using some of these simulations is that there's probably too much high end, too much hi-hat frequency coming through, and sort of smothering a lot of the other sounds. especially in this section when I have these extra hi-hats, especially when I use a simulation like a tablet. It's quite a tinny sound really, and I'm using my AB reference, and I think maybe some of these hi-hat sounds could come down in the mix slightly. I think it's these sort of 16th shaker loops. And I think it's sounding well balanced when I turn the simulations off. The other thing I noticed is when we go into our lead section, and I'm referencing with some of these other tracks. Bearing in mind these have been professionally mastered, but when I switch to one of the simulations, especially the more poor quality simulations like a radio or in-ear buds, I notice the most prominent thing is the lead. The kick drum and the lead come through on all these playback systems. We switch back to our track, and I think the lead is not really coming through quite as nicely and cleanly as it should be. So let's have a look at this here. And probably this one and this one could be a bit more prominent in the mix. And a few simple tweaks to the mix there, and some nice cross-referencing using the MixChecker plugin, and it seems we've readdressed the balance of our mix down to something that's not only going to play back well in the studio but also the club, and also across a number of different playback systems, bearing in mind that a lot of people are accessing music on a lot of these systems these days, so this might be the first point of call for your new track or your new mix down. It needs to translate well across all these systems. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out MixChecker by Audified, which is available now at adsrsounds.com.